Hello, beauty. Welcome. I am Jennifer Ness Schmidt, coming in today as Divinely Jennifer with some PYH, that would be post yoga hair. I'm trying not to blow it dry too much, but I'm going to yoga as much as I can because of how it makes me feel so embodied. Like I feel my body when I do yoga, and it's really cool. I really love it. So I'm going to be talking a little bit more about that in future videos, not about yoga, but just simply about how we embody our bodies, because so much of us are disconnected. So stay tuned. Thank you for all your likes and comments to my Saturn and Pisces video. I am very grateful because the more people who like and comment and share the video, you're of course welcome to share it. Then the more people get to see it. And that's the way those algorithms work. And I'm very appreciative of you all for doing that. Of course, you have lots of time to watch the Saturn and Pisces video. You can watch it several times over the next 2.5 years. So there's no rush. This one, though, we're going to be talking about the triple conjunction that's coming up between Jupiter, Chiron, and Vesta. Yes, Vesta. It is a triple conjunction, not just Jupiter and Chiron. And I'm going to be talking about that. Letting you know it's coming up. March 11 and 12 happens in a very short amount of time. First, though, I want to let you know that I am going to be hosting a free March Equinox guided meditation and intention setting. So the sun will be moving into Aries on March 20th. I will be hosting this guided meditation and intention setting, including lots of hot seat coaching and channeling for you all on Sunday, March 12th. If you can't make it live, no problem. It will be recorded. We had so much insight shared with us during the December solstice meditation that I decided to do it again for this equinox. You know, we are moving into Aries seasons. This triple conjunction is in Aries. We are going to have we have so many planets in Aries right now, and we're going to have more. We're going to have two new moons in Aries. And it's like after months of being on the transformation superhighway, it is now time to bring our gifts back into the world, or if we've been shy about it or just not sure where to put our focus, all that good stuff. Head on over to www.divinelyjennifer.com/March 2023. Let me say that again, www.divinelyjennifer.com/March 2023 to register. It'll take you over to an Eventbrite page, or better yet, sign up for my mailing list if you're not already on it, so that you can get announcements about these free events before I announce them here on YouTube. So my people on my list knew about this already next week. Just saying. All right, end of commercial. But I really want you there because it's going to be really potent, and you're going to want to make sure you're setting intentions for Aries season. Just saying. Okay, so many astrologers, I'm sure you've seen lots of videos and announcements if you follow other astrologers, which I hope you do, are talking about this upcoming Jupiter-Chiron conjunction on March 11 or 12, depending on your time zone. But what they're missing is Vesta. You see, this isn't just one conjunction between Jupiter and Chiron. It's 3 conjunctions. It's a triple conjunction between Vesta, Jupiter, and Chiron, each exact between 11:53 p.m. March 11th to 9:55 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Well, it's a little complicated because Phoenix doesn't change time zones, so maybe that's a good thing. Mountain Standard Time doesn't change. We're just in Phoenix all the time on the same time zone. So between 11:53 p.m. and 9:55 a.m. Mountain Standard Time on the 11th and 12th, but we will feel the influence of this transit. We're already feeling it. We're going to be feeling it. This beautiful, beautiful aspect in the sky. We're going to feel it for several days. And it really is, I think, a harbinger for what is coming this spring, this year. But I got to say, I'm a little miffed that people aren't talking about Vesta. I'm a little miffed that it's just all about the freaking masculine, because when you add in Vesta, the goddess of sovereignty and the divine feminine, health, home, and the hearth. When you add her to the mix of this conjunction, the flavor and the impact of the conjunctions completely change. So imagine you've got a cafe mocha, right? You've got your regular mocha. It's chocolate and coffee. It tastes good. But then if you add turmeric or mint to that cafe mocha, it is simply not the same experience. It's like having English breakfast, but then you add cardamom and cinnamon and cloves and honey and almond milk to make a yummy chai. That is completely different, my friends, than English breakfast. When we leave out the archetype of the goddess, aside from Venus, we know everyone puts in Venus. Wonderful. I love Venus. Don't get me wrong. But I know a lot of women who just are like, nah, with astrology and other tools of divinity that leave the feminine out. When you leave the archetype of the goddesses out, it's turning a lot of women I know off from astrology. And it's ironically, it's representational of leaving the feminine side of things out of the equation. I don't want to sound like some pissed off feminist, raising my arm like, Gloria Steinem here. The reality is that, we've experienced this masculine energy. We've experienced this masculine-based world for millennia, and it's created an imbalance. People see and they feel the imbalance, and it shuts something off in their heart. I mean, we're certainly seeing it out in the world today. This week we had International Women's Day. But if you can't even define what a woman is or what the feminine is, how are you able to integrate her so beautifully in your life? How are you going to celebrate her? Oh, there's so much celebration. And then paradoxically, healing this imbalance of masculine and feminine within the self, I see it as a major part of this triple conjunction. If you ignore the wounding and the suppression of the divine feminine for millennia, how can you expect to fully heal and mentor others and become prosperous doing so? Jupiter's all about prosperity. And how can we do that how can we be generous with others, right? If we don't understand this imbalance and we don't recognize it. This conjunction tells us, these conjunctions, this beautiful amalgamation of energy tells us that it's important to undergo rituals of self-care and self-discovery to understand better who you are and how to overcome your wounds so that you can become more generous of yourself and your gifts. It's like you can look at these conjunctions as you cannot give from an empty cup conjunctions. It's simply impossible. You give someone, oh, here, yeah, have some of my water, but the teacup is empty. There's nothing to give. And people feel that. And you feel it more than anything. My beautiful partner, Tom, recognized the other day, he was doing some contemplating and he recognized how important the divine feminine is within him to be able to give birth to all of these beautiful, creative, masculine impulses that are inside of him. So he's got all these beautiful, creative, masculine impulses, but they need the feminine to be birthed out into the world. So you might actually hear him. He's got an art show coming up in Carefree next weekend at Gallery Michelle. And he's a wood turner, so you might hear him outside engraving. Hopefully my mic isn't picking him up, but I'm super proud of him. There's just another 22 reasons to love him. But these conjunctions, the self-care isn't necessarily this integration of the masculine and feminine. It's not about sex or sexuality for most of us. I mean, for some people it is. There's so much conversation around, gender this word dysmorphia and, all these, the polarity of the trans movement versus the more traditional movement. It's not about that. It's really about, when we're integrating the masculine and the feminine, inside of us, it doesn't mean that we suddenly become bisexual or androgynous, although you can be. That's all okay too. Finding this balance inside of us is really, it's all about being inclusive. No one is left out. The most diehard feminists must learn how to love and nourish the masculine within, just as the most patriarchal chauvinist must learn to love and nourish the feminine within. Doesn't matter how you identify. We all get this path in life. We all get to learn how to integrate and embody. That's the big part, right? We'll talk about that more in Taurus season. Right now, we are simply finding that authentic masculine and feminine within ourselves. That's the Aries piece of it. It's got to be about us first, so then we can figure out how to put it out into the world and how to share it with others. Now, all of this energy that I'm talking about has been impacted. It will be impacted. It is impacted by Saturn's descent into Pisces, which happened on March 7th. And like I said, I made a video about that. If you are interested in learning more, there are lots of videos online about that. I was on a Lunar Liberation call with some divine goddesses last week. So Lunar Liberation is this beautiful community that I'm building. And we were talking about narcissists and enabling and codependency, and how Saturn in Pisces is one of the energies that will force us to examine all the ways we enable others and the ways we are enabled by others, instead of empowering and being empowered. That's so much about Aries season, is going to be about empowering and ourselves and others, being empowered, being inspired. I mean, I think we've all experienced this pandemic of narcissism that exists in the world in some way in our own lives. You really have to be in a cave somewhere not to experience it. And I'm actually going to talk about that towards the end of the video, as I talk about how these three conjunctions relate to the US chart. And it has to do with narcissism, my friends. So my dear friend, Patricia Reber, who is part of Lunar Liberation, she's an awesome osteopath. I love her so much. You can find her online as well. She's so insightful. She's got like a, trillion Pisces. She's got so much of her natal chart is in Pisces. And she said after the call, we were texting back and forth, and she said, and I asked her if I could quote her. She said, yes. She said, do you think that Saturn in Pisces will expose them, meaning the narcissists, and their tendencies to an accelerated extent? Then the enablers will have to face their own codependency or go into deeper self-delusion. Mic drop. Like, whoa. Yeah, I kind of do. The other aspect of this, of these aspects of these conjunctions, think about, where have you given up your authority and let others control you? No, I don't mean as like a 5 or a 6-year-old necessarily. I'm sure we all gave our parents a hard time here and there. I mean, really as an adult. Where have you given up control of your sovereignty and independence? Where have we seen this before in the last 3 years? Did you guys see Rob Schneider's video on Instagram? It's hysterical. So these could be ugly conjunctions. This could be an ugly triple conjunction for masks, mandates, and anyone wishing to have control over an individual's sovereignty or autonomy. I mean, we're done. Some of us acquiesce, like, all right, I'll wear the mask on the plane because I need to get from point A to point B. But come on, you guys, really? I think most people have come to a point where they need a fresh start. And that is this triple conjunction. This has the power to be such an empowering transit, such an empowering pattern in the sky. Right now, you can only see Jupiter up there. He's really getting low on the western horizon. We won't see him for much longer, but know that Chiron and Vesta, when you look up in the sky, they're right there. It's so beautiful. But this is very much a renaissance and a spring. Be tender with yourself and the little shoots of goodness that are starting to sprout in your personal garden of the self. Those of you watching this video, I've gotten to know some of you really well, and I just adore you. And, you have done some serious heavy lifting in the transpersonal realms over the last 3 years, not to mention the last 6 months alone. Autumn and winter have been brutal, not just weather-wise for a lot of people. Yeah, I'm wearing short sleeves today because it's finally warm. It's finally spring here in Phoenix. But it's also the metaphorical winter, right? We've been on an accelerator course to awakening, which is not as easy as we perhaps thought it might be. Am I the only one who was naive enough to think that rising to the 5D and ascending was going to be easy? Well, guess what? The universe is teaching me otherwise. At the same time, do recognize that others are going through their own transformations. Being a Christian meditating fruitarian, or a Christian tantric carnivore, or an atheist marathon macrobiotic might work for you. But as Chiron and Vesta in Aries teach us, there is no one size fits all approach to healing. And when we dive into the shadow of that, when we dive into saying, you must do this, you have no sovereignty, you will give up control, Jupiter will magnify that. And we're seeing that now. We're seeing these issues being magnified for so many people. It just, in the collective, it just has to. And we'll feel them in our own lives. Feel free to put a question. Like if you kind of have an idea of your birth info, or I've done a reading for you before and you want to know where this is happening in your chart, what house it is, send me an email at hello@divinelyjennifer.com, or put it in the comments here. Like, hey, I think this is where this transit is happening for me. Can you just let me know? I'm happy to do that. Please put your questions in these videos. No sense in being confused. I try to translate the astrology piece into energetics, but sometimes I'm not always successful with that. So if I say something that leaves you scratching your head because it was too much like astrology speak, hey, put it in the questions. I'd love to answer it for you. All right. So while like I said, I see this transit as being empowering for most, but I have to say that it doesn't really look good for the United States. And that's because the foundational ideal of freedom has become so warped in the US. You could kind of say it was a little bit warped from the very beginning because of, the only people who were truly free in the US Constitution were white men. And so now we've spread our wings. We've expanded that view, except it's still really, really warped in our world. Now, astrologically, these conjunctions, and they're all at 14 they're all in 14 degrees of Pisces. So let me just pull up here. So you've got Chiron conjunct Jupiter at 14 degrees, 26 minutes of Aries. That's March 11th. And then we have, stand by, my friends. Then we have Vesta conjunct Chiron at 14 degrees, 27 minutes of Aries. Meanwhile, Jupiter is standing by at 14 degrees, 29 minutes. That is so super close. 2 minutes to a triple conjunction. It's just like, it's kind of sexy because it doesn't happen often at all in astrology where we have these conjunctions so close together, which is why, oh my God, why are you leaving out Vesta, people? Just saying. And then we have Vesta conjunct Jupiter at 9:55. So that's at 5:27 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, Chiron conjunct Vesta. And then Vesta conjunct Jupiter, 14 minutes, 32 degrees of Aries. Chiron's hanging out at 28 minutes. I mean, they're so close together. That's at 9:55 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So you got your astrology geekin'. All right. So these conjunctions, that 14 degrees of Aries falls. So that's where you can look in your own chart, where's 14 degrees of Aries. These conjunctions fall in the fourth house of the US chart, which is fourth house is all about home, land, heritage, and the heart. It's about the heart. I keep hitting my microphone. Sorry about that. It is about the heart. And they're opposite. These three planets, Vesta, Chiron, Jupiter, are opposite to the US natal Saturn in Libra, which is at 14 degrees. So US natal Saturn is at 14 degrees of Libra, and this conjunction is almost exactly opposite. I mean, let's face it, the divine masculine is sorely missing from our current government structures. How it's created, those structures are beautiful, right? That harmonic structure, you've got three voices, you've got Congress, you've got the executive branch, the legislative branch, Congress, you've got the White House, the administrative branch, and all that Fed stuff that goes along with it. And you've got the Supreme Court. That's a beautiful trinity, but it's warped. There's not a lot of divine masculine in those structures right now because we have way too many narcissists in every political party and sphere of government. And they really want, consciously or unconsciously, it really doesn't matter, they very much want to chain people to the yoke of codependency and enabling. Look at what happened in the last 3 years with people getting all those government subsidies and grants and stuff when they shut down the economy. That created some serious codependency and enabling. So that's going to take us quite a while to overcome. And this transit, these conjunctions, this triple conjunction, I think is really going to highlight this division within the US. And then that of course happens, it's like an earthquake. It just reverberates throughout the entire world in a lot of ways. I actually had a dream the other night that all the big countries who go to things like the G20 summit, they all had to sit in the corner on the naughty mat, and the little countries were the ones who came together and solved world peace. Just saying. Okay, so let's close things out here. You've been listening so patiently. The reality is we have to overcome our own personal inadequacies and become sufficient within ourselves. Now, sufficient has become one of my new favorite words. Sufficient sovereignty doesn't have such a sweet ring to it. Sufficient is a new word. I've been reading The Body of Money by the very sweet and quite funny, actually, Gail Coleman. It's about somatic finance. And if you've got money wounds, oh, my dear friends, you must read this book, especially if this triple conjunction is happening in your second house or your eighth house. Please, please, please go out and get this book, The Body of Money by Gail Coleman. It's shifting my world here, friends. But it's this idea of being sufficient. And then when we have sufficiency, when we have enough and we are enough, then we can share our resources with others. All right, my lovelies, thank you so much for listening and watching, making it all the way to the end. Remember, head on over to www.divinelyjennifer.com/March 2023 to register on Eventbrite for my free March Equinox guided meditation and intention setting on March 19th. And a reminder, I did do a Saturn and Pisces video, which you can watch as well. And I will be making one for Pluto in Aquarius, at least his first 2 years, because he's going to be going back and forth between Aquarius and Capricorn, back and forth. And we're going to feel like we're in a little bit of a tug of war, or a lot of a tug of war. Anyway, I'll see you at the meditation on March 19th. I love you, and I'll see you the next time.